The centre today filed its first affidavit on the Uniform Civil Code, saying that varied laws inhibit national unity but backed in-depth study of personal laws, refusing to enact a legislation. Clamour around the UCC has been there, especially with states like Uttarakhand preparing reports to ensure the formation of a law. But the premise of this debate is that when India has one nation, one constitution, why do we need two different laws in one country? The Supreme Court has directed the hijab matter to a constitutional bench, hence implying that the hijab is a constitutional matter. So what's the need to ensure that there is national consensus on UCC? That's the big question which we are asking on NewsX. To take this further and discuss this in greater detail, I'd like to welcome a panel of experts, all of them legal experts, starting with Mr. Chandrabhushan Pandey. He's a former judge and legal advisor to the governor of UP. Also joining us is Sukumar Pat Joshi, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Executive Committee of the Supreme Court Bar Association, Rekha Agrawal, senior lawyer. Also joining us, Subhash Jha, advocate practicing law in the High Court and as well as Supreme Court with us. Tarun Nangya, of course, our legal editor, is also with us. I like to, of course, welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, on this big debate. Starting first of all with you, Chandrabhushan Pandey, sir. The UCC is a debate which has been raging for time immemorial. Of course, this debate around why there is a need for different laws, different personal laws for one country continues to rage. Today, of course, the government really has said that they are going to look at this matter in depth, and as of now there is no need for a judicial intervention. Many are drawing a comparison with hijab, saying that if it's okay in the hijab issue for the Supreme Court, for the courts of the country to look into the matter, then why not UCC? Where do you stand first of all on this debate, sir?
And in the Constitution, Uniform Civil Code specifically says that there should be a uniform civil code for this country. There is no doubt. And the matter was already referred to the Law Commission also. Then the 21st Law Commission considered this issue, and though they have not attended, but they examined the entire issue, and after much deliberation, they finally came, this is not the time. But they have not said it is not a requirement of this constitution, or this is not required. But they simply suggested that this is not the proper time to enforce the uniform civil code. But the constitutional maker at that point of time considered that this is an important issue. Therefore, they incorporated in the directive principle of state policy. But important thing is the way. One way we say that entire country, one country, the citizens have same right, and seems they have to be protected, marriage, in order to integrate the society, in order to equally treat every citizen. This responsible code is a must, in my opinion. Every country, democratic country, cannot be though they have a minority population, but they cannot have a different set of law for marriage, divorce, maintenance. After all, these are affect the individual right. These are the individual rights which are the fundamental rights. So therefore, because individual rights are being affected, and citizens have in the Constitution, citizens' right is more important than anything else. So, in the light of the fundamental right, if you provide a fundamental right to your citizen, then they will equally treated. And in India, why this is every government unnecessarily, this matter is being postponed for time to time, why the Law Commission said that this is not the proper time. According to me, this is a proper time and this will be implemented. And that will integrate not only to protect the rights of the citizens, it will also integrate the citizens. And all the advanced countries have the one uniform civil code. So therefore, India should also have a uniform civil code. And they are, though the central government in affidavit, as the law minister said, they are referring the same matter again to the 22nd law, 22nd law. It's a second law commission. So now they are again going to refer the matter. why not they come forward and say that now we are going to legislate matter? So far Supreme Court is concerned, they cannot specifically direct, they cannot issue amendment that you make the law because it's a legislative function.
Yeah.
But it should clearly come and say that now we are going to draft the law. First, let the draft be prepared and that draft is circulated so that there should not be apprehension in the mind of the different sector of society. Religious group. Most of the people think that it is against the Hindu, it is against the Muslim, it is against the Christian. It's not like that. When you are going to make informed civil code, the interest and the tradition and the legal sanctity, the religious sanctity of every section of society will be considered. Though this is a very diversity in India, it is full of diversity. But how about marriage, maintenance, divorce? There are 4 or 5 things in 4 or 5 heads. I don't think there will be so many.
Okay.
So long this on those issues where there is no difference of opinion, there should be it can be implemented. But in those issues which are not a difference of opinion in the different section of society, that should be implemented, and the rest should be left for consideration. But entire uniform civil code will left should not be implemented. I don't think it should be immediately legislated.
Okay.
And government should bring a draft law discussion, and thereafter it should be finalized.
All right, point taken. And if Sukumar Patjoshi, you could come in here as a senior advocate, would you agree with the former judge here? End of the day, the government of the day, or be it any government, they seem to be dragging their feet on the matter. The Bharatiya Janata Party has vociferously supported the UCC in their election manifestos. They have time and again promised the implementation of the UCC. But when it really comes to walking the talk, there seems to be some hesitation. Would you say perhaps it's time that the judiciary intervene? And if so, is it even possible? Because the law ministry seems to suggest that it's not, citing Article 44, of course.
Yeah, broadly, I agree with Justice Pandey, definitely. Okay. But saying that, but this is still not the time, or in fact within the domain of Supreme Court to direct. Because that's clearly, that mandamus can't be issued for making certain law. But the issue now is jurisdictional, and it is pure. In fact, Law Commission also does not have a role in the scheme of things. Either the Supreme Court, not the Law Commission, has a role. It's purely the elected representative in the Parliament. They have to take a call. It is lawmaking. It's purely a lawmaking. Whether you want anomalous, different laws for different set of people in terms of gender, religion, or sexual orientations, or you want one common uniform code for everybody. These are, so far as the personal laws are concerned, because this is your age of marriage, your maintenance, your guardianship, all these are to be governed. And you would recall 1985 Sahavano case. In fact, this has evoked much interest since then, and it is going on and on. In fact, many times it's proposed, but never introduced in the Parliament.
Exactly.
So this is one thing that it needs to be looked into by the elected representative. This is purely a call of theirs. And I can't say that n number of petitions in the Supreme Court can't empower Supreme Court or force Supreme Court to take a decision one way or the other, because the Supreme Court is governed by the constitutional scheme of things, and they have to continue with their limits. So, and similarly, I do not see any scope for Law Commission's intervention in this. This is purely to be debated and examined whether you want that everybody who is in India has to be, because you see that unilateral divorce in some segments. And the procedure, it's not only talking about these two communities, there are many other communities. So everybody is entitled to a personal laws as of now. But if it is uniform, what is the harm or something, that needs to be debated in the House. And therefore, I think this is time that this should be debated and given a, quietus or given a closure with some suggestions or something, so that people know that this is what the lawmakers desire and they represent us. So therefore, whatever is the decision by majority is the law.
Okay, you say whatever the decision by majority is the law, but Rekha Agrawal, we know the government, I've taken your point, sir, we know the government in power, the government, at least this party has...
After that, the role of Supreme Court will start after that, after the Parliament takes a call, next a legislation, then probably it will be there in the domain of Supreme Court whether it's right, wrong, or
Fine, I noted that point, sir, and just taking it forward with Rekha Agrawal. When do you think will it be pertinent for the judiciary to intervene? Because when we speak of our parliamentarians, there seems to be one earlier, at least before the BJP government came with a thumping majority, not once but twice, some sort of a consensus, but also a political will. Even with a thumping majority, it doesn't look like that the government of the day in all these years really have made much headway into the implementation of the UCC beyond, of course, going, the ceremonial election speeches. If we speak about the implementation of the UCC, if many or most within the country feel that the UCC is the need of the hour, what really, according to you, ma'am, is the way forward?
I think that I just heard the other two speakers, Justice Pandey and my senior colleague, Mr. Padjoshi, and I fully concur with their views that as of now, the Supreme Court has got no powers, to act upon the PILs which have been filed, especially Mr. Ashwini Upadyay, our, colleague at the bar and, is a very BJP activist. Having said that, of course, a uniform civil code as required under Article 44, that would be in fact a utopian day, if Article 44 is implemented, because to have a secular democratic republic, that is a directive principle which we would like to achieve, but it has not been achieved till yet. And as you rightly said, there's a lack of political will. That is the most important point, which, or rather most important obstacle, which does not allow the legislature to kind of, the elected leaders of the people, they do get elected and they make a lot of promises, like the BJP is now supporting a UCC. But ultimately, when it comes to the elections, which party is going to actually come forward and take the promise of UCC to its logical conclusion, that remains to be seen. These are all big, election promises. And in fact, our political parties, they survive on vote banks. And that's instead of, the policies actually of divide and rule. We are, as Justice Pandey said, we are a very big country, so we have, it's like what we call a subcontinent. India is not a country, but it's a subcontinent. And we have a diversity in religion, diversity in culture. There's so many, ethnic, cultures are there, so many customary laws are to be followed. So, but yet, the beauty lies in having unity in diversity. And I see that what I would just say over here, that it is going to be a very, very long way when the dream, of Article 44 actually comes to be implemented.
Yes, you're right, ma'am, when you said it could be perhaps a utopian day. Maybe as of now, the judiciary does not have the jurisdiction to impose UCC from tomorrow, but can they at least intervene in some manner? Subhash Jha, sir, if you could come in here, can the judiciary at least ask the government to form a draft to start or expedite this exercise which they speak of today when they say that they need to read all the scriptures and look very, very closely at laws which govern various religions?
In my assessment, the exercise itself is in futility. Article 44 of the Constitution is a constitutional mandate which guarantees uniform civil code to all its citizens throughout the territories of India. Where is the question of then the Supreme Court? Supreme Court doesn't legislate. It only interprets the law. It doesn't legislate. But certainly, if there is a constitution in place and if still there is no law for the time being in force, even after 75 years of our independence, cannot the Supreme Court say that cannot it direct the Union of India to legislate? Now, please see, this is not for the first time that the issue has fallen for consideration before the Supreme Court. I may tell you 27 years before in the matter of Shah Banu case, incidentally, the judgment, the bench was headed by, it's a constitution bench judgment, which was headed by none other than Justice Y.V. Chandrachud, the father of the next, who is going to be the next Chief Justice of India, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. Now, he authored a judgment, and let us see what he said. He said something about Article 44 of the Constitution has remained a dead letter. It provides that the state shall endeavour to secure for citizens a uniform civil code. So it was deprecated in not having a common civil code in 27 years before. Now, if you remember Shah Banu's case, the famous case 125 maintenance, it was upset by the then Rajiv Gandhi government.
Yes.
Now, after 10 years in 1995, in the matter of Sarla Mudgal, the matter once again fallen for consideration about prosecution under 494 of a man, of a Hindu or a Muslim, because Muslim can marry four, but after 1955, Hindu Marriage Act, a Hindu cannot marry second wife. So he can be prosecuted under Section 494. That matter travels to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, what does it say in para 37 and 38 of the judgment in Sarla Mudgal's case? It says, 37, we therefore request the Government of India through the Prime Minister of the country to have a fresh look at Article 44 of the Constitution of India, endeavour to secure the citizens' uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. 38, we therefore direct the Government of India through Secretary, Ministry of Law, Justice to file an affidavit of a responsible officer in this court, August 1996, indicating therein the steps taken and efforts made by the Government of India towards securing uniform civil code. That's a clear-cut direction. Now, we are pondering over this issue even after 17 years. And this is the government which came into power promising and assuring its citizen uniform civil code. I think the law officers who filed the affidavit, in my assessment, they have committed a big blunder. According to me, he should be hauled up. The persons responsible for filing such atrocious affidavit in the Supreme Court, saying that the petition is not maintainable. What is there to maintain? Ashwini Upadyay is seeking to remind perhaps the Supreme Court and the government that what has been said in the past 27 years back, 75 years after independence, and we are struggling for such issue, which is not an issue at all in my assessment.
Okay, I take your point, and obviously it's the founding fathers also who wanted it, if one was to read what B.R. Ambedkar had to say. Even he was in favour of the UCC. As I said right at the onset of this discussion, UCC debate has been raging for time immemorial. Tarun Nangia, our in-house expert, is also with us. Tarun, help us understand really what is holding back the Supreme Court from, if not legislating in the manner, end of the day, yes, it has to go via the Parliament, but can the Supreme Court not issue a directive at all to the centre to expedite the process? Many also, of course, laymen asking, and it's been buzzing online as well, that if the Supreme Court can intervene in the hijab matter, which is also a personal matter, how's the UCC so different? Can you shed some light on the same, Tarun?
See, the Uniform Civil Code, I will decode it for the viewer Meenakshi. It's not just about marriage, divorce, maintenance, adoption, co-parenting, inheritance, but it is also about succession. It is also about the partition of family property. It is about guardianship. It is about wills. It is about gifts and other charitable donations. Family trusts are set up. The problem is not in the personal law aspect of it. The problem is there where succession and wills are concerned. Even Hindus among themselves have different laws surrounding succession. There is a Mayokha school, there is a Mitakshara school, and there is a Dayabhaga school that is in Bengal. So Hindus themselves have different laws concerning. So I don't think that, there could be consensus easily and so soon on this. As far as the personal aspect is concerned, marriage, divorce, age of marriage, that is one thing. But we have to see that how the Hindu society itself reconciles on these aspects. And then if there is a committee which could look into it and submit its report, then we could move ahead. You asked me about the Supreme Court issuing a directive. In my personal opinion, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Looks unlikely, but when we speak of the UCC itself, it's because time doesn't allow us a very extensive debate into the pros and cons of the same. I'll just take one quick comment from all the panelists who joined us, starting first of all with you, Chandrabhushan Pandey sir. You said earlier, you advocated the UCC saying that, it needs to be expedited at the earliest, but there are those who say that it violates the constitution, it infringes into one's personal right, it goes against the religious belief. Where do you stand on this discussion and debate, sir?
In the matter of three talaq, after all, the Supreme Court directed to make a law within 6 months. Supreme Court gave a time for 3 months. 6 months to legislate the law. Though it's in the matter, even in the the directive of principle of state policy. So there cannot be, and amendments cannot be issued. But how for inaction of, again, the inaction of the government, inaction of the federal government or state government, Supreme Court may issue a direction.
Okay.
The Supreme Court issues some direction that you just complete this within 1 year or 6 months or whatever, or even you prepare a draft. But a draft can be prepared by the government, and so that people may know that what is going to be operated in the Uniform Civil Code.
Fair enough.
Nobody doubt what is the Uniform Civil Code and what will be included, what will not be included, and more. There are dozen of issues which has to be incorporated. But at least 3, 4, 5, 6 things, there will be consensus in this country, and I think such draft to be prepared by the government and brought before the people.
Fair enough. Taking this forward, Sukumar Patjoshi, would you agree with the former judge here? End of the day, the least the Supreme Court can do is ask the government to form a draft, perhaps within a time frame, so that this debate doesn't get dragged on forever.
Let me clarify that first. I'm not an executive committee member of the Supreme Court. I was earlier the vice president, not now.
Okay.
And also, this is my personal views. This has nothing to do with Supreme Court Bar Association. Secondly, what you asked me, in fact, this is clearly in line with the preamble. And also what Mr. Nangia says, that because there are dichotomy even in different sects, that is all the more reason we need a uniform civil code. Because, we have to unify. I'm not saying that they are good or bad or anything, but that is the reason it has to be rationalized. There are very anomalies and conflicting, laws governing different individuals in the same country or same subcontinent. So that is the reason that the exercise, and Supreme Court may try to say that kindly find out the finer points or what are the commonalities, what can be then exercise. Supreme Court can definitely, the power is enormous, except for directing the parliament. Everything else can be done. A committee can be done, a mediation committee can be done, many things. In fact, in Ram and Janambhumi, you saw, they tried through mediation also. So anything can be done, and don't limit that what they can do. And it's ongoing, and maybe that sometime it will come. This is the need of the hour. Maybe that Supreme Court will, in its wisdom, think that we must set up some committee who will decide. So that's why I think we will have to wait and watch, and Supreme Court will definitely do something. Let's be hopeful of that.
Well, let's be hopeful. We'll have to wait and watch what really happens in the coming days. Rekha Agrawal, ma'am, since you are not just a senior lawyer, sir, I've taken your points. I need to move ahead because the time is limited. Rekha Agrawal, ma'am, not just as a senior lawyer but also as a woman, the debate around UCC has raged regarding women's rights as well. Would you say perhaps it's time, since our politicians, as I said earlier, as most of the panelists agree, seem to be dragging their feet on this extremely pertinent issue, perhaps time the Supreme Court intervenes, at least take some action, if not direct the parliament, if that's not something the Supreme Court can do, but a time-bound report, perhaps a draft, or ask the parliament or the government rather to submit a draft within a time frame?
Yes, what I would say over here is that I would like to remind everybody of Article 14, which guarantees equality to every citizen of the country, and there can be no discrimination on any ground whatsoever.
Correct.
Whether it is race, or whether it is ethnicity, or whether it is religion, or whether it is sex.
Ma'am, I think your audio is on mute by mistake.
Article 14, Article 44. It should not just be kept as an endeavour, that the government shall endeavour. It is time that we actually made it mandatory that a uniform civil code should be made, so that particularly women who have to face discrimination because of sex or because of religion. We've seen it how women, especially the Muslim women, until the triple talaq, how difficult it was for the Supreme Court to pass the judgment on triple talaq.
Yeah.
So women have also been, at the brunt of all the discrimination. So I think the Uniform Civil Code will come in a long way to help women move forward in society and get the equal status which is being guaranteed under the Constitution.
All right,
and okay. off in that.
Just taking this point forward, Subhash, if we speak of at least this entire panel, most of us seem to be in unison when it comes really to the UCC, whether, when we speak of the merits rather of the UCC. In fact, the government also, the law ministry also, in its affidavit seems to be suggesting that they are, as usual, as we expected, on BJP lines to be in favour of the UCC. In fact, they say different laws are against the national unity. So do you see a dichotomy here when the same law ministry asks the Supreme Court not to intervene, says the Parliament will take its own sweet time and eventually we will come to a conclusion and a decision?
Certainly, yes. All that, in my assessment, what Ashwini Upadyay needs to remind the Supreme Court or to tell the Supreme Court that, look here, the Supreme Court in Shah Banu's case 27 years ago and in Sarla Mudgal's case 17 years ago precisely said the same thing. It accorded its serious concern that why this Article 44 has not been implemented for such a long period of time. And therefore, enough is enough, be it any government in power, be it BJP or Congress in the past in power. Which government was in power or is in power is none of the concern of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court must ensure that the mandate of the Constitution is implemented in its letter and spirit. And it has to be done immediately. There cannot be wait here for 75 long years. We are living in 21st century, and this cannot go on forever. So therefore, in my assessment, the government the government in power must file another affidavit or at least make a statement through the Solicitor General of India or Attorney General, whosoever appears, and appraise of the Supreme Court that yes, the Supreme Court has been reminding us for the last 27 years to the government of India, it has done nothing. We will do it now. We will see to it that it is carried forward.
Is it possible or not? Of course, that debate rages. Tarun Nangya, last word to you since we are running out of time. What do you think is the way forward? As far as the government is concerned, they say that the judiciary has no right intervening in the matter. They are going to conduct an in-depth research and study, the personal laws of various religions and come to a conclusion. That's something which we have heard from many governments in the past as well, and no conclusion has been reached till date. What do you think is the way forward from here?
See, in my view, if you read the manifesto of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the 2019 polls, it spoke about uniform civil code, which of course they have mentioned in the earlier manifesto also. Hence, the ruling party in its manifesto has professed commitment to this cause. Of course, even they are studying it. If it was to be done like in one stroke, it would have been done long ago. But as I pointed out to you in my earlier answer, even among Hindus, which are about, if I'm not wrong, about 114 crore people in India. It is the single largest concentration of Hindus, which is in India, it's 114 crore people. Among them, there are 3 different schools of thought. Don't we feel that these 3 different schools of thought and crores of people who follow these 3, they also will have to reconcile among themselves? I think the committee would be the only way out where different viewpoints are taken. Steamrolling and bulldozing can't be a solution to any issue. Personal laws are okay. Laws governing marriage and divorce, that can be common. That is different. But inheritance, succession and other issues, even among Hindu society, you have to find a middle ground. And I think bulldozing or steamrolling is not the way forward, but consensus and discussion and then moving forward would yield better results.
All right, fair enough. Steamrolling, you say, is not the way forward. A reconciliation needed. But is it possible perhaps to please everyone? Or, if the government tries to initiate a dialogue, will there be a timeline for it? What really is the way forward as far as the UCC is concerned? Or is it only going to be an electoral issue, an issue which keeps the, electoral cauldron burning and helps the political parties with their vote banks? Can the Supreme Court intervene or not? Well, the Law Ministry thinks not. As far as the panel is concerned, the opinion is to some extent divided. At least a directive perhaps can be issued to the government to come up with a draft in a certain time-bound manner. All of that really, what the Supreme Court decides, what the future of the UCC is going to be, or is it going to be a debate which will continue for a few more years? We'll have to wait and watch. For now, I'd like to thank all the panelists who joined us on this extremely riveting conversation.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.